Well, as we've been discussing all morning long, former President Donald Trump is expected to surrender to authorities today in Miami to face historic charges. He is the first former president to be indicted in federal court. Manuel Bojorquez is in Miami outside Trump's resort in Doral, and he joins us now to discuss. So, Manny, there have been supporters and critics outside of the hotel. That happened. We saw them yesterday. What's the scene like this morning?
So far, the media outnumber the protesters or supporters, if you will, of the former president. I'm seeing one gentleman with a flag just down the street here. But that could all change, of course, because a lot of people like to come out and wave at the former president when his motorcade goes by. It happened yesterday as he was arriving at his golf club here in Doral, and it will happen, expected to happen later this afternoon when he is scheduled to depart the golf club to head over to the federal courthouse. So you may see the activity pick up here, but I have been looking at images over at the federal courthouse, and there definitely are some protesters showing up there. So far, not in the hundreds or even thousands that officials had estimated could arrive, but again, it's still very early. A lot is set to happen today, as you know.
So do we know who's there with Trump?
We have been told that he is surrounded by his closest advisors. So that would be his legal team, of course, when it comes to the arraignment, but also his campaign team. You have to remember the two things are happening at once here. Yes, they are dealing with this legal problem, the arraignment that is set to happen. Very procedural. It could be very quick. But at the same time, they're looking at this as a chance, another opportunity to portray the president as a victim of a political attack. And the president comes out and he tells people, his supporters, look, an attack on me is also an attack on you. They very much believe that. So they're looking at this as a possibility to fundraise even more. And the former president is not one to ever shy away from publicity, even if it's negative publicity, especially as he eyes the 2024 White House run.
So one of the things I guess people are going to wonder, Manny, is will the former president be fingerprinted? Will there be a mugshot taken? And I suspect that that it's not going to be exactly that.
Our understanding is that he will be escorted through an entrance for the federal courthouse where you may not see him, a kind of covered area there. And then he is to be surrendered to the federal authorities. If there is a mugshot, we may never see it. One thing about federal court is everything is very secure, and they don't typically release much to the public. So unlike the indictment, the arraignment that happened in Manhattan a few weeks ago, we may not see much of the former president today outside of the motorcade when it relates to this judicial proceeding that is going to happen. There was even a motion to allow cameras and recording devices in the courthouse and in the courtroom, which is something that rarely ever happens in federal cases, and that has been denied. So you may not see much more activity outside of the motorcade and outside of the protesters and the media that have surrounded not only the federal courthouse, but also here, Trump National in Doral.
All right, Manny, thank you. Well, police in Miami say they're preparing for the possibility of tens of thousands of protesters outside the courthouse today when former President Trump surrenders to U.S. Marshals. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane has more on the security preparations in the city.
Good morning. Miami city officials insist their city is ready for today's court proceedings. The former president won't be walking in the front door, though. He'll be going through a private entrance with Secret Service at his side. Security preparations underway at the federal courthouse in Miami ahead of when Donald Trump is expected to be booked and processed Tuesday.
So there won't be a time when the Secret Service is not with the former president.
Former U.S. Secret Service Deputy Director A.T. Smith says Trump's security detail will help escort the former president from his Doral resort to the towering courthouse in downtown Miami, where protesters will likely gather.
Lock him up!
Multiple law enforcement officials tell CBS News no credible, specific threats have been identified, but that rhetoric online is loud and has increased significantly on both sides of the political arena.
The Secret Service has a very robust intelligence section that monitors this sort of thing, as does the FBI.
But it's the former president who urged his own supporters to converge on Miami today in a social media post.
We are ready, and we're ready for it to be over and gone.
Miami officials said they support people gathering to protest peacefully and promised a heavy presence of local and federal police outside.
We're bringing enough resources to handle crowd anywhere from 5,000 to 50,000.
Veteran Miami defense attorney Michelle Suskauer says any crowd isn't likely to get a glimpse of Trump.
So there's underground tunnels, and so we're not going to see that movement. We're not going to see a perp walk. We're not going to see him being booked.
As the day began here in Miami, there were no bike rack barriers or fences, just the strips of yellow police tape you see beside me. The city streets remain open, and city police are in the streets with federal agents here on the courthouse steps. Vlad, Anne-Marie.
Scott, thank you.